If I write a strategy, I'm hyped after I send that.
It was that typical struggle of like all the fear that came with
the friendships that fall away in my life are typically with those people that aren't moving themselves into that next body of water.
starting a career over at 37, knowing we were going to want to start a family soon. We were purchasing our first house. I was in a mountain of debt.
If you're in a room with a bunch of C players and you're the best, you're just the best C player. But then once you go to a new room and you're with A players, it's like
Keep learning, keep growing, keep figuring it out, and then just see where it takes me. And I think there's that balance of, yes, see where it takes you, see how it unfolds, but then also have some sort of long-term goal to keep you in that like right direction at least.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Logan
And Faiez Show.
Yep. Today we're talking about, man, are you doing what it takes to live the life that you want to lead?
Are you bringing the discipline and necessary action to create self-mastery?
And quite frankly, if you looked at yourself in the mirror, are you liking what you see?
And are you being honest with yourself about moving into that next level or that next better iteration of yourself?
Let's get into it. When I was younger, I always used to struggle with when I saw somebody that inspired me, I would look up their history on like Wikipedia or Google, and I would read like all the steps that led to them becoming the current version that inspired me. And I would like compare my life to theirs and be like, oh no, they had this, they had that, therefore I can't become that. And I think it came from like this internal place of like, what can I be based off of my upbringing, my education, my IQ, what are my skills? And my beliefs evolved to where, yes, I believe that I have some innate strengths and weaknesses. And also I have a remarkable ability to develop different skills and tools. And so it's like this combination of recognizing your innate abilities can be a limiting belief, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you limit yourself to
just those abilities.
I'm a creative person, so I'm not going to understand accounting. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm a creative. Like, dude, you can learn the basics of bookkeeping so you can keep your studio open.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can, believe me. Doesn't mean you need to become an accountant.
Yeah.
So like everybody has their version of that where like you have your zone of genius and you feel like the other stuff is not for you, but I don't think it has to be that extreme. So I think that's something my understanding of myself evolved in that regard. What about you?
I would say it's pretty similar to that. I think previous versions of myself, I would pigeonhole myself into a specific lane.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you're saying. Like, oh, that's not what I am, or that's not what I do. Or certain things came so easy to me that if I started working on something else and it didn't come easy to me, I would just essentially lie to myself and say, oh, well, I'm not going to be good at that, or that's not for me, or I don't feel like learning that, because it was a challenge to me and I wasn't like up for that challenge at that time. Whereas now I think a great line is, I haven't learned it yet. And that's what I try to hold as a little bit more of a truth, that, oh, I just haven't figured it out yet. And just I'm more willing to grind through something now to figure it out, because I think I relish in that challenge a little bit more now. I don't like thinking I can't do this. I don't like placing any limitation on myself now.
And then there's the other extreme of that when you don't place any limitation on yourself, where you think that you can do everything, but then if you try to do everything, you don't really become great or really good at anything. And so we talk about this every episode, right? Like the spectrum of any topic. And so for me as a business owner, you cannot avoid the buck stopping with you on every subject matter. And so whether it's HR, taxes, building the actual product, design, marketing, sales, I'm not great at all of those things. But over the years, I've had to develop a level of competency and understanding in all of them. And then a handful of them I'm really good at, and a select few of those lanes I'm great at. And I try to pay attention to which of those activities gives me energy if I write a strategy memo, which I do every Monday and send them to all my teams, I'm hyped after I send that. Like I'm flow state. I feel great. Finance doesn't like give me energy. It doesn't take away energy. I'm like, okay, so I can be competent at this, but I'm never going to be the best because it doesn't give me energy. Understanding compliance, that drains the fuck out of me.
I hate it.
I understand it though. And I have forced myself to like understand it, because if I don't understand the numbers of my business, if I can't find flaws in the books, that's going to fuck me in the end.
Yeah.
But it 100% drains me. So I spend a lot of energy making sure I have the right people around me. But even when you have the right people around you, you got to be able to gut check everybody. What do you think? I think I have an idea of your answer, but you know, you have to run the studio. So what activities give you energy? What activities are neutral? And what activities drain you of energy?
As an artist and a creator, creating videos or editing photos definitely gave me energy. I could sit there and do it for hours on end. But then in comes managing the studio and these podcast sessions and producing them. So the evolution of the studio took a very different angle as to what I started it as. What really gives me the most energy is more like customer relations now, shockingly. Like I love interacting with new clients that come through here. I love providing them the service that I think this studio brings more of compared to other studios. And I think it brings me the most energy because I just love people interaction now a little bit more than when I used to, or when I started. I was much more, you could say introverted, or maybe it's my Cancer nature, that I definitely liked being back here by myself and creating and doing my art and things like that. But then now, as I've opened up, say, my heart or spiritually a little bit more, I love the customer interactions. And I'm blessed with a lot of like really cool, great people that come through here. So I just love chatting with them and providing them the service that I think everyone deserves. So that gives me the most energy for sure. Weirdly now, what drains me is probably having to do any post-production for clients that maybe I'm not the most interested in their topics. It's not to say that they don't have interesting things to say. Maybe it just doesn't interest me. So it's a little tough to kind of get through some of those edits sometimes. I love doing Casey's edits. That's fine. I don't hate, but doing the books, it's like the worst. I get behind on it or whatever. I don't track the money in and out here as well as I should. I know it should be a whole lot better. And I also know there's money coming in, there's money going out, there's a nice flow to it, there's a nice rhythm. I think there's a balance of not getting too... We have a friend who's very spreadsheet oriented with the family's life and their finances. Like every morning, check the spreadsheet, figure it. Like, and I very much have zero spreadsheets. I think I could be better at finding that middle pillar that we talk about, that balance in between, which that was big on my list this year of becoming better at. And trying to not look at it like, oh, this is so draining. I'm looking at it more of, this is my challenge this year to be better at my books and make sure the flow of that, I have a better grasp.
Pretty much the same. And I've had to learn through hard money lessons over the years, like AKA running out of money, right? Like, oh shit, I got to pay more attention to this.
Yeah.
And every time I just get a little bit better and better and better.
Yeah.
So I didn't start out naturally being a spreadsheet everyday guy. I'm still not, but I just have like a two time a week cadence. I have 2 hours a week, Tuesday and Friday blocked off, and we review everything.
That's actually something I need to be better at too, is actually blocking off my schedule and my calendar for like admin things, finance things, whatever. Like, hey, set aside that time actually to schedule that and to make sure it gets done each week and to learn it, to just be better at it.
It's like the discipline of really anything. Like accounting and finance is like eating my vegetables. Like I got to do it. Right.
I like that analogy.
I don't fucking love eating broccoli. If Heather left me to my own devices, like my plate would be fucking bread, butter, and meat all the time. but like the vegetables are there. I eat them first to get them out of the way. And like accounting and finance is the same thing.
That's great.
I have drawn satisfaction and joy at getting like remarkably better at it. Doesn't mean it gives me any more energy, but like I really enjoy and appreciate myself for getting better at it through staying committed to it.
I mean, I even think about little things like getting this podcast going and wanting it to be on the website's page as a resource to look at and everything. And I have a website person, but I like to do things and upgrade things on there or change things that are simple, whether it's just adding a podcast episode or that. I don't want to have to reach out to them and be like, hey, add this, put this. So even taking the time to learn that, I think now recognizing also, as is anything, when you've done it enough, you know there's gonna be a learning curve in the beginning. You know it's gonna be frustrating. It's something that could take me 15 minutes is gonna take me an hour. But I know that if I just commit to it for 2, 3, 4 weeks, it's gonna then take me 15 minutes to do it. And like yesterday, I got our 2 episodes up in like 20 minutes or whatever on my webpage.
100%.
Yeah.
Anytime that you set up the books for a business that has existed that doesn't currently have them, it's a fucking lift. It takes hours and hours and hours and hours of work. But then once you go into maintenance mode, it could be like 15 to 30 minutes a week.
Yeah.
And so the benefit of having like those rocks in your schedule is that they can be legitimately 30 to 60 minute check-ins. Mm-hmm. But if 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months goes by, you're so far behind that the next time you have to do it, it's going to take hours and hours and hours. Yeah. And that then like further prevents you from sitting down because you know that it's building up.
It's just like a workout. You know, you lose that physical body for 3-4 months. That first 2-3 weeks back is going to be a pain in the ass.
It's going to be a pain, and like you fall out of the habit.
Yeah.
So, but this leads me to like the benefit of preparation or the levels of preparation. Somebody talked about it in a video, and they were talking about how they prepare for different things. And I'm huge on preparation, and I have partners that are the opposite. They don't prepare for anything. They're like, oh, I just show up and I wing it, and I always crush it. I'm like, okay, whatever, bro. You would be better if you spent even 5 minutes preparing for it, but you do you. I guess that's my benefit in the partnership. But what really stood out to me when I was watching that video was if you're in a room with a bunch of C players and you're the best, you're just the best C player. But then once you go to a new room and you're with A players, it's like when you go from being a senior in high school to a freshman in college, right? You were the big man on campus, and now you're the runt.
It's like big fish in a little pond, or
big
small
fish, little
fish
ponds.
in a
Exactly.
big pond. Yeah.
And so I'm always battling the discomfort of avoiding going into the next big pond, right? The next biggest body of water. And there's I am proud of myself for pretty much every year I do make it into the next big body of water. And you got asked me a question a couple of weeks ago about like friendships and holding on to and letting go of friendships. And I thought about your question, and I realized that the friendships that fall away in my life are typically with those people that aren't moving themselves into that next body of water. And I'm like, if 10 years have gone by, if 5 years have gone by, and you're still swimming in the same lake, like, I'm sorry, dude, I'm looking for new water.
Yeah, it's nothing personal. It's just I've jumped to 6 new lakes at this point, or I'm out in the ocean now.
I'm out in the ocean, and I've learned all these new ways to swim now where like you only know one way to swim, and I get to experience something completely new.
Right.
And I still love and appreciate you.
But if you're trying to talk about this new way of swimming, he has literally no context.
I'm out here talking about coral reefs. You ain't never seen one of these bitches, bro.
That's so good. That's so good.
You're still swimming in that shallow creek over there.
You got that swamp water you're dealing with. Yeah, totally.
So there's like a couple moments in my life. I remember 3 years of college at CU Boulder, state school, public school. And I remember when I just used to get by at Colorado, but I'd get A's and B's, whatever. When I went to Harvard and I gave that same level of effort, I'll never forget my first class, my first paper, I got a D+. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was reading the comments that the professor left me, and it was basically like, this was a shit effort and this won't work. And I was like, whoa. And it pissed me off so much that I worked so hard for the rest of that semester. I was working really hard, and it was like, then I got a C, and then I got a B-. And I was like fighting for my life to get my grades up. And I was like, wow. And I was looking at the people around me, and I was like, okay, the people here are smart, but I thought Harvard was going to be full of geniuses. I don't think anybody was meaningfully smarter than you and I are. But the level of preparation and effort and the standard was so much higher that you had to squeeze that lemon for everything that it had to get the A. And that was like, that will always live in my memory of like, what level of effort am I giving to the task right now? Can you imagine like if you have a lemon and you squeeze it 50% and you do that over the course of your life, how much juice you left on the table versus the person that squeezed it 100%.
Yeah.
You're left with a completely different situation.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like constantly gut checking myself for, am I giving the level of effort that is required for the level of success that I want? And success, it could be professional, but even like spending time with your kids, right? Like you may, not you, the proverbial you may think that you're being present in the moment, but maybe there's layers deeper of presence that you could be with your kids in that moment.
100%. Yeah.
You know, I basically think there's always more juice to be squeezed.
I love it because I always like to share with people that my spiritual journey runs parallel with switching careers. So I kind of have these visual benchmarks, whether it's kind of on Instagram, I can see my creativity shift at different moments of my spiritual journey as well. My access to a higher level of potential or a deeper layer of understanding within my relationships or friendships or entrepreneurship or my artistry also shifted at those spiritual moments. So I think my biggest aha moment was on the spiritual journey of being like, it was my own personal understanding of limitless potential. Like really knowing like, oh, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. Like that was always just abstract to me as a child. You think that's just what your parents tell you. I don't know what it was like for you, but of course my parents are going to tell me, oh, you can do anything you put your mind to. But to actually believe it and know it and feel it wasn't until I started a spiritual journey, which then catapulted my career in the arts, basically. Because 2018 is when I shifted careers into photography, shifting out of personal training and fitness for 10 years. I remember that first year being, it was that typical struggle of like all the fear that came with starting a career over at 37, knowing we were going to want to start a family soon. We were purchasing our first house. I was in a mountain of debt, wondering if I could actually make a career out of being an artist or photography. Cause like Instagram hadn't really, it was there obviously, but I didn't see a lane yet of like how I could make a bunch of money or how I could support my family. I was like, oh, I really want to do this. I'll just like figure it out. Then fast forward now, 2 years later, I opened the studio. Granted, it was COVID year. And then now fast forward another 4 years. And here we are at the studio producing podcasts and all sorts of things are going on here at the studio now. It's like a completely, the trajectory of it, I don't think would have shifted and moved and elevated as quickly as it did without having gone through my spiritual journey of actually understanding my potential and getting to the deeper layers of understanding of myself in order to carry out the proper actions to take me to these next levels.
And you had like some of the top podcasters in the world here.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy.
Like legit people have rolled through here.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about depth. When you're navigating a career change or you're at a point in your life where you don't know what you want to do. We've talked about it in the past where just taking the next steps is the valuable thing to do. Maybe you can't go deep because you don't know what you want to go deep on. But as long as you, like you said, understand that you can achieve anything that you put your mind to, then width can be the appropriate thing at that time as well, which is just trying things. I don't know that you ever master planned having the podcasters that you have in this studio in the beginning.
No, it was never like a goal set out to be like, I want this top podcaster to come through the studio ever.
It's that, and that's the interesting thing that I don't think any of the best things in my life I could have ever predicted.
No.
Actually, any of them. From my wife to my business ventures, like the best, most rewarding experiences, you couldn't find them in any of my journals when I was, vision casting. Mm-hmm. And so what I've learned from that is, for me, goals are directional. They're mile markers to help me move in a direction. And as I'm moving in that direction, I get to learn and experience things that I couldn't predict, but I never would have had those moments if I didn't move in a direction. If I had just stayed stagnant, then I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have done all the things that I'm so excited about. And so I'm thinking about, you know, there may be some people listening that when I said, how much effort are you giving to the thing that you want, where that resonated. And then there may be some people that are like, I don't even know what to give effort to. And then the answer in that side of the equation is whatever's coming to mind, try that.
Right.
And if you just keep trying the things that are in front of you, a body of evidence will stack up for what to lean into and what to lean out of. You know what I mean?
You know, you have to build that instinctual muscle just as much as the goal setting muscle, let's say. Like I was a similar way that when I got into photography, I didn't really have these like long-term goals set out. I mean, maybe in the back of my head somewhere, I was like, oh, it'd be cool to have like a photography studio at some point. Sure. But it was more instinctually of just like saying yes to certain projects or figuring out technical stuff with my camera or whatever it may have been. It was just constantly always trying to learn something new. Like that was the only goal I had really. It was like keep learning, keep growing, keep figuring it out, and then just see where it takes me. And I think we always talk about this. There's that balance of yes, see where it takes you, see how it unfolds, but then also have some sort of long-term goal to keep you in that like right direction at least.
The saying yes to a bunch of things is basically data collection.
Yeah.
If you have no data in front of you for what you want to do or what you could be good at, you have to do a bunch of things. Now you have all these data points and you can say, like we said in the beginning, this gives me energy and that fucking drained the hell out of me. I like this. I didn't like this. I liked this and other people liked it. Oh, that's a double upvote. Let's lean in that direction more.
I didn't know I was going to have a podcast. Like literally the way the podcast studio came to be is I did a spontaneous purchase of these microphones back in like late 2020, early 21 maybe. Literally because I'm just like stuck back here for a year during COVID watching a bunch of YouTube videos and seeing all these YouTube people talking about these amazing Shure microphones. I'm like, oh, I want some of those at the studio. Don't even use them for like a year. And then lo and behold, 1 year after that, people are starting to ask about podcasting in the studio. I don't know if I ever stated I wanted it to be a podcast studio. I bought these microphones on a whim. That was it. Truthfully, I probably even had buyer's remorse for like 6 months after buying them because I was like, why did I spend all this money on the microphones?
Several episodes ago, remember we were talking about the Iron Man.
Yeah.
And I told you that when I hear like my inner spirit say that it wants something, I have to do it. And I've gotten better at hearing that voice over time. So you and I meditate, right? Like we meditated before the podcast. And that's one of the biggest values of meditation for me is you get better at seeing your own thoughts. And part of seeing your own thoughts is recognizing your own internal desires. And you may not think you know what you want, but I would challenge that you actually do. You may just not be hearing it. And your fear voice may be louder and it's drowning out that, you know, inner wish voice.
Well, that's where the discernment comes in of knowing, is it your fear voice, your negative ego, or your higher self, the one that will know your desires before you actually know it?
Totally.
Yeah.
And so what would you say are your currently the first things that come to mind for you? Like, are your inner wish voice wanting right now?
I mean, we talk about it all the time. Financial freedom.
Yeah.
The next level. And don't get me wrong, I live a very good life right now. I don't have too much. There's some stress there with money. I think everybody has their stresses with money, no matter where you're at on how much you make or how much you spend or whatever. But yeah, my biggest desire is I want the freedom of time and finances so I can just literally hang out with my kids and do whatever they want to do. Like, that's what I'm ready for in life. I had enough. Casey and I had 7 years together before we had kids. We got to do everything. There's nothing I feel like I'm missing out on when I'm with my kids. And so when weekends are packed full of stuff with them to do, I'm like, all right, let's do this. Like, this is what we signed up for. This is what I want to provide for them. I want them to have the funnest, most experiential life possible and the most connected life with their parents possible for the next 17 years we have them. I just want to do fun shit with my kids.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think that that more money would create more free time for you to spend with them?
For sure. Yeah. I think, what is it, after like 200 or 300,000 a year, there's not that much difference in your quality of life.
Yeah,
but
it used to be 75,000.
Used to be 7, whatever that number is. I think there's caveats to that a little bit. I personally think the difference between making 200,000 a year and say 1.5 million a year is definitely going to up my happiness in a way, or the things that I'm able to do with my kids and the traveling that I want to do. It's not going to make me happier or more joyous because I'm there. Like, but it will create more experiences for my kids that they get to have a fun-filled life, for sure, and more time with their dad. Like, I would love to, be able to take a couple more days out of the week or a couple more days out of the month and stay home from the studio and not have to come in and just do something fun with them. Do
you feel like you understand the steps to get to that point?
I do. I think we're getting there. I think we're close. Yeah. We've talked about this tons of times. I'm like having to learn between my kids and product development and the studio and entrepreneurship. I'm getting a huge dose and lesson in patience. But I do see incremental steps that are getting me to, like, there was a period in my life where I used to always have the like grand vision goal. And then I think it was at a point in my life where that grand vision goal actually really wasn't that big. Like, looking back at it now, I was like, oh, I made it, in a way, quote unquote, made it. And so when I got there, I kind of laid back a little bit and got comfortable, and then didn't set a much bigger goal. And then again, with the spiritual journey, then I started to set larger goals. Like, if you had asked me in my mid-20s, I never would have said I wanted to be a millionaire. Now, yeah, I want to be a fucking millionaire. I want to have some money. I want to do some cool things. I want to create cool products. I want the studio to be successful. I want to have the financial freedom. I want to invest in other things. But that goal was never there, say, like 10 years ago. So now, and for a small period of time, say when I was switching careers, it was very much just like surviving. Like, how am I shifting into this new career? So there again wasn't this like grand vision goal. It was just, how do I get by day to day and make this work and figure it out? And I was just like engulfed in the process. So now that some things are in play and some pieces are in place, now I can see that bigger vision goal where I think my manifestation to get there, I'm seeing the steps again. I'm seeing those chess moves, a few like moves ahead. So I think it's on its way. And then I also just, you get those feelings like we've done it enough where you just kind of know like, oh, I'm heading in this direction towards accomplishing this goal. Like, I know it's almost there.
Not everybody does this. I'm very intuitive. However, I always gut check my emotions and intuition with logic. This is the biggest difference between Heather and I. She'll feel intuition and she'll take action on it immediately. I always gut check my intuition, and like, if I feel good about it, can I back into that good feeling through sound reasoning as well? If it's double verified, then it's a solid go.
This is where me and you are slightly different too. I think I probably lean a little more on Heather's side, where I just like, I'm like, let's go.
I think, and there are certain moments where you just got to do that. Right? Yeah. Like crisis, you don't have time to always reason your way. You just gotta go with your instinct. But a lot of the time, to be honest, I think emotion is full of shit. I think intuition is completely wrong a lot of the times. And so, because I want you to be successful, I would 100% gut check. You feel like you're in the right direction, and that's probably right. And also, what is the proof of that? I'm not going to make you do that publicly on that podcast, but if we were in a boardroom,
well, let me ask you this. No, let's play this out a little bit, because this is probably where I do need a little more logic at times in my, and I could learn a thing or two from you here. So what would you be looking at, say, knowing that I'm in this product development stage? I can't dive too much into what it is, but what are maybe some benchmarks you would be looking at as to, hey, is this on the right path? Is this going in the right direction?
Okay, so number one is, I asked you, do you feel like you're on the path to achieving that financial freedom that you wanted, right? And you said yes. And is it fair to say that the product that you're working on is your path to financial freedom?
One of the paths, I think. Yeah.
One of the paths. What's the other path?
Well, the studio.
The studio.
Yeah.
So let's just call it millionaire status. That's financial freedom. What percentage do you think the product versus the studio is going to contribute to that goal? Is it like 80-20 product, studio?
I would say product, maybe more like 70-30.
Okay. So let's say the product is your path to financial freedom.
Well, here, let me caveat this too. Maybe it's more like product is 50%, studio is 25%, and Casey's content and everything that I'm doing with her is 25%.
Okay. So if I was to look at the financial outcomes of each of those three projects, the product, based off of our conversations, is built for an exit.
Yes.
You're creating that product to build a business that you want to sell.
Yeah.
Right? So there will be a liquidity event, AKA cash in the account. The studio pays your bills, right? Yes, you could sell a single studio to
probably not going to be sold.
A local buyer, but it's not going to be it's not going to contribute to millionaire status.
No.
Casey's practice also pays the bills, wouldn't result in a huge cash windfall. However, the YouTube side of it, that could create substantial income.
Which, side note, she did have a viral reel finally, like 2
Oh,
million.
a viral reel?
Yeah.
I've been seeing her YouTube stats really picking up.
Yeah, they're doing better.
Yeah. It feels like the momentum is really picking up. So let's just focus on the product, right? Do you feel like the product is headed in the right direction? Like that project is headed in the right direction? So why do you feel like it's headed in the right direction?
See, this is where it's just like instinctually it feels good. I haven't had to dump a bunch of money into it. The bootstrapping has gone well so far. Now, things have taken a little longer because I can't just like flood it with a bunch of money, which is totally fine with me. But every designer I've talked to, every person that's kind of had their pulse on it for a second, they've all said, you have something here. So that feels good. I don't think these are people that are just going to like blow smoke up my ass. They're like, no, you have something going on here.
Pause there. Why don't you think they would blow smoke up your ass?
They have no reason to. It's not like they're getting anything out of the deal. You know, it's not like I was getting work from them or something that they're like, oh yeah, this is a great idea. Let me come on board and help you with it or whatever. Just from a designer eye, everybody liked what they were seeing.
Okay.
To me, I look at like serendipitous moments, like are things falling into place that just feel really good? Like who is coming on board to help at what moment and why did they say yes? The way in which we were able to get a lot of content and 3D renderings done for way cheaper than we anticipated, and to actually have them turn out the quality that they turned out, that now we have potential to use these for ads that I think will be higher quality ads without having to shell out thousands of dollars. It was only hundreds of dollars. So I think I'm looking more at like the risk reward of how little money we've had to put into it and what we've gotten in return just feels really good. Because I think there's also that small part of me that's like, oh, well, if this didn't work out or something, I'm not like millions in debt or anything for it. You know, the relationship that my designer has with the manufacturer, I feel really good about how they've been communicating on getting the next prototype to us, what that material is going to look like, how we're going to use it. We're going to use that for actual in-person video, potential ads. So a lot of it is just, again, like I said, it's more a feeling. Like everything feels really good the way it's going down, and it's not costing me a bunch of money. To me, I've not done a product development before, but I feel like that's a pretty big key component as to, hey, we're getting things done and it's not costing us a lot of money, and we're going to be able to test run a product before having to shell out X amount of dollars for however many units we want to get in the beginning. That's all I have to go off of, really.
What I heard you say is product development feels like it's progressing in the right direction. You haven't had to pour a lot of money to see prototypes that you and other people resonate with. And you feel like your designer has a relationship with a manufacturer that you could potentially actually produce the product repeatedly for a customer base.
And I trust that manufacturer, like just their dialogue back and forth feels good.
Okay, so I think those are all important qualitative inputs to pay attention to. To balance that, and the discomfort of tracking this side would, if you faced it, propel you into action faster, in my opinion. It's created $0 in revenue. You've had 0 customers actually buy it from you. Those are the only 2 things on this side that really matter at this point. And the third thing I would add is, when did you bring this idea up to me? We were sitting over there and we talked about it. And then you, me, and your designer also met.
Well, the idea popped into my head. I want to say it was near the end of last summer. So 8 months ago, let's say.
Let's say 8 months. Okay,
9
so
months, yeah.
We'll call it product development time has been 8 months.
Yeah.
Let's call it 8 months. So you have qualitative inputs on this side. And then we've got 8 months running, 0 customers, $0 revenue on this side. What I told you 8 months ago was that you want this number, the time that you spent on development, to be as little as possible before you get somebody to give you even a $1 down payment on one of these products would be real data to show you that you have a business. Because all of these inputs show you that, like, you have a cool project, but none of them really show you that you have a business that, or a product that there's demand for.
Right.
There's no proof of demand until somebody spends money with you. So I was talking to a founder yesterday. He has like a $50 million chocolate business in all the major retailers, Walmart, Costco, yada, yada. And he was talking about when they started, him and his co-founders, like, they were just making chocolate at home, right? And instead of giving it for free, they would make people pay 75 cents for it. They didn't make any money on that 75 cents. But they were like, somebody being willing to pay me 75 cents for the chocolate bar showed some level of skin in the game. They had to pull out their credit card. They had to type in their credit card information to make the transaction go through, versus me just throwing out chocolate bars left and right. Of course, people will take a free chocolate. But these people were at least willing to spend 75 cents with me.
Right.
So it let them know that they were on the right track. So I do still believe that intuitively, this all started with, challenging the intuition, is these things are important. And also, we got to get to somebody paying you $1, 1 cent as quickly as possible. Because at the end of the day, people got to buy the thing.
Right.
So, okay, that we can pause there, because that was
that could be a whole
that was
episode.
Public workshopping.
Yeah.
I can't really go 48 hours without Heather telling me how she doesn't like to work with me, because I get really fucking hard. But that's what I'm
What's funny is I've always had you in the back of my head that's like, we got to see if somebody's going to buy this thing. We got to see if somebody's going to buy it. Which is, I believe we're right. We have like the stepping stone to that, which is now going to be the ads that are like, hey, do you want to be on the wait list for when this thing drops? Like, they might not be actually buying it by getting on there, but at least we're going to find out if anybody's actually interested in this product.
I mean, I would challenge that ads are the right way to go there. There's like so many more creative ways that you could.
Well, yeah, we're going to try a few avenues, a few different lanes. We're throwing a lot of lines out there, throwing a lot of hooks out to see what happens. Because the great thing is again, I think we have the potential to try a lot of these different things, throw a bunch of darts, see what hits, because a lot of them aren't costing us that much money. So it's like, why not? Let's give it a shot and see what happens.
This would be a fun little build in public check-in every 4 to 5
I'm totally
episodes.
fine doing it. Like, it's happening, so we might as well talk about it more on here.
Your first customers are going to come from the 18 viewers we have on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the last topic that I want to end on is, you have a goal. We just talked about your goal, right? I have goals, and they could be material goals, but they could also be character goals. And I'll give you a great example. I forgot that I had like a 5 p.m. call with our accountant yesterday, and I was at the gym. I was ready to go, and I got a message. Hey, don't you know we have a call with Casey right now? And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I had just taken my pre-workout, I had just finished stretching and I was about to go and hammer some weights. And I was like, I gotta fucking get on this Zoom call. And I'm like I'm fucking jacked up. So I went and found a bike in the corner of the gym and I just started pedaling and I took like this call for 45 minutes. And okay, so my fucking high is going down. And then it ended up being like a really basically disheartening call. There was a bunch of expenses that I hadn't foreseen, yada, yada. I ended the call and I was stressed. And I had like a 2-hour workout ahead of me and it was already really, really hard. And I was getting in the zone in order to make the most of this workout. I didn't want to be there the whole time. Like every set, I was like, this is good enough. I'm just going to go home. Mm-hmm. But I have fitness goals that I think about all the time. Like they're on my wall. I touch them in the morning. Like I fucking talk to my friends about it. I've posted them on social media. Like I have real fitness goals. And here I was, I had a challenging call and I wanted to leave after every set. Those are the moments where you have character or outcome goals. And the moments where it's hardest, where I don't want to do it the most, are actually the opportunities that I have to make those goals a reality. When I want to do it,
that's the easy
part.
Yeah.
There's no change that's required when I want to do it. It's when I don't want to do it and still do it where my brain chemistry is getting changed. My neural pathways are changing.
Psychologically, it's the biggest gains.
Those are the gains.
It's a mind game. Everything is a mind game, and that's where you want the biggest gains. How do you change your thinking?
How do I change my thinking? I actually think that I change my thinking by my actions. As a result of taking different actions, my thinking then shifts. Literally in my thought, in my brain yesterday, I was literally in the gym for 2.5 hours. I had a 3-part workout and I skipped one exercise before I had my 3rd part. At the end, I was fucking exhausted. I had finished like a 30-minute, every minute on the minute workout. But in my head, I was like, I skipped those 3 sets of that one exercise. And I was about to leave and I was like, if I leave without those 3 sets being done,
fucking day.
I'm gonna be thinking about it all day. And I'm like, what else will I walk away from in my life?
Yeah.
As it relates to my business, as it relates to my marriage, as it relates to my parents, what else would I be 3 sets short on? And remember what I said about squeezing the lemon, the juice out of the lemon. Yeah. Stack up those 3 sets over a lifetime and the results are completely different for what I could have created.
Right.
I did those fucking 3 sets.
I knew you would.
And then I was out.
I think about the greatest athletes because I've been watching lately. A lot of like Kobe stuff comes up in my feed or Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah. And both of them has said like, yeah, there's days I don't want to get up and go to the fucking gym. Like I'm human just like everybody else. But he's like, both of them will say those are the days that change you. Those are the ones where you get up and you still go. And that's what creates greatness as opposed to mediocrity.
100%.
It's when you're willing to do it when you don't want to do it.
When you don't want to do it. I heard a great Jocko quote the other day. And he was like, some days you wake up and you're like, I need a rest day. And he's like, don't rest on that day. He's like, you may be right. You may need a rest day. Just don't take it on that day. Don't give in to that voice on that day. Take the rest day tomorrow.
Yeah.
But don't give in to that short-term impulse in that moment. Go through the motions if you have to, but keep your commitment to yourself in that moment and then make the decision that you'll take a rest day tomorrow. And I was like,
I had to do it this morning getting on the bike. I was like, man, I woke up at 5:15. I was like getting over this cough. My lungs don't feel great. I'm like, I got to get some sort of workout in, but also, you know, I've talked about this. Bunny's laying next to me. I could just like stay in bed and cuddle the whole time. I did it today. I was like, get your ass out of bed, Logan, get on that fucking bike and just suffer through it. And I did. It was the first time I've ridden the bike in months where I had these, it was like every 5-10 minutes, this thought of like, I'm just not feeling this. Like, I don't want to do this. I might just keep going. Got through 45 minutes. And I'm so grateful that I did because this conversation ended up probably a whole lot better than it would have had I not gotten on that bike this morning.
Totally. Like the level of self-satisfaction is through the roof on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about the part of the brain that grows when you do what you don't want to
Wanna do.
you fucking grew that part of your brain.
I know. Grow that part of your brain, people. That's the mind game. That's the mental game. Mastery of anything starts with mastery of the mind.
Love it.
That's it.
It's a good note to end on. If you like what we're talking about, give us a like, give us a subscribe, comment. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.
Love you, buddy.